Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is your boy Jay Stone coming to you with another edition of In the Lounge with Stone and B. Today we have a wonderful guest. I've been trying to get a wonderful therapist on here for many, many years now, and I'm so happy that I came in contact with this young lady. Her name is Dr. Webb. She's an author. She's a behavioral expert. She is a little bit of everything, and she will get down to the root of every problem that you have. We're going to be talking about three things here: depression, anxiety, and panic attacks. And there's going to be some other topics coming up, but those are the main three that we're going to be talking about. Ladies and gentlemen of the lounge, I need you to introduce and bring her in with a warm welcome. Dr. Webb, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be with you, Stone, to talk about these important issues.
Uh, it's a wonderful thing. I am so thankful that you are able to talk to me and give me a bit of your time today. So let's start with the first one. What is depression?
Okay, so depression is a clinical disorder, and a lot of the symptoms of depression include obviously sadness, being pessimistic. So pessimistic means, if you're going to see your favorite team play, you're going to think, oh, we're going to lose today. Or if you're going out on a date, you're going to think, oh, this is not going to work out. It can result from a history of failure, but all of us experience failure, and it's a part of our lives to kind of, get back out there, get back in the game once you mess up. But a depressed person stays and really spends a lot of their mental efforts on their failures in life. And also just even the loss of pleasure. Like sometimes the things that they used to like to, go for a walk in the park, but maybe
Hmm.
they're bored with that now. They can have like unreasonable guilty feelings all the time, or um, almost a feeling of self-dislike can be a part of depression. Which goes along with that self-criticism, which tends not to be helpful. In fact, a lot of treatments for both depression and anxiety involve kind of challenging that constant self-criticism. And the hardest part, of course, with depression is it can come with suicidal thoughts or wishes, and that is, of course, needs to be treated immediately. It can be crying, it can be irritability, it can even change your appetite. You may not be hungry. A lot of tiredness and fatigue as well. Those are some of the main symptoms of depression.
Now, for a family member that sees that, how can they help their loved one or a friend or whoever it is fight with that, battle with that, get over it? Like, because it's a hard thing to see someone fighting depression and it you can't do anything about it. You're just sitting there. You feel helpless as a friend or as a husband or as a wife or however.
hmm Yeah, I mean, obviously, the best thing to do would be to get some professional help. And so I'll tell you what we as professionals do. And I think that probably as a parent or a friend, you can translate some of this into things that will be helpful. So, for
Okay.
example, with depression, one of the main treatments is what we call reappraisal, which means noticing that, as I was talking about, like, oh, I shouldn't apply for that job. I probably won't get it. Well, reappraisal is I might get that job. There's a chance I might get the job. And if I go on that job interview, I'm going to be building my skills, and I'll learn more about the interview process. I'll gain more experience. It'll help me next time I go up to bat. So
Great.
finding this sort of persistence and challenging those hopeless thoughts that it could be possible that something could come out of this. Another strategy for managing depression, one of them is available to anyone. My first thought was, get a therapist, but time in nature are some of the most powerful treatments for even depression.
Repeat that one more time. What was that again?
Time in nature helps depression,
Time
and also
in nature. Okay.
so does exercise. And this doesn't mean you have to go run a marathon to get benefit for your depression. It can be as simple as going for a walk, um, and it releases all of the healthy neurotransmitters, dopamine, just by getting some exercise. And so that can be really, really helpful. Again, you don't need to run the marathon. Just get out, get some exercise.
Get out, get some exercise. So with that, now, is there any other than, so that's a great trick. That's a good thing to do. You feel it, get out, get some air, get some exercise, open your lungs, get to moving around, get your blood going. The other ones which you're talking about, and I have seen these things work. You're right. When they say, "Oh, it's not going to happen," it's not going to happen. They need someone there to say, "Hey, don't say that. Try this one. Do this. I believe in you." I really believe when somebody is
Like
depressed, whatever, they need somebody to just uplift them. Everybody needs somebody in the world. So a little love won't hurt nothing. Um, what about this now? Since this pandemic has
Mhm.
closed,
Yeah.
open, or however you want to call it, 2020, everything was shut down. Nobody could touch, look at nobody, say nothing to nobody, or whatever. Everybody was locked up, masked up, everything. So my question to you is, when the pandemic was, as they say, it was over, and everyone was free to go out, free to be around,
Mhm.
free to be with everyone, you start seeing so many things going on. You start seeing people on the airplane going crazy. You start
Yeah.
seeing people just in stores just doing some of the craziest stuff. You just start seeing people everywhere just losing their mind because they wasn't used to being around people anymore. And there was nothing on the news, there was nothing on the radio saying, "Hey, if you're suffering from anxiety or depression or whatever may have you, come see us." So at that point, my question is, what is anxiety? What is anxiety? Where does that come from?
Okay, so we have to make a big difference here because what happened in the pandemic was it's shattered assumptions is one way to say it. Like we think that we're just going to go to work the next day. All of our assumptions about our safety in the world are shattered. So when
True.
we think about anxiety, we have to distinguish between an anxiety disorder and very reasonable anxiety. I mean, it's very scary to see everyone in masks. It's scary. It's very scary to know that people are dying. We're dying from COVID. It's very
Yes.
scary to worry about yourself and your friends, and you're going to get germs, and your life changes overnight. It's scary because, people maybe lost their income. It's scary because people's kids weren't going to school, and you
So
worry
true.
about your kids. So there was so much to worry about, and um, what's hard to say, does everybody have an anxiety disorder? Because that would be like a reasonable reaction to an event that shatters our assumptions about how smooth life is going to go. But so when we talk about an anxiety disorder, it might be that you don't develop the healthy coping mechanisms and that you continue, to 3 years later, maybe be terrified that you're going to get germs and you haven't kind of bounced back. So when we
Ah,
think of it, yeah, yeah.
okay.
So, when we think of anxiety disorder, we might think of the difference between what's called, a panic attack
Yes.
and generalized anxiety disorder. So, for
So
example,
there you go. Often ask you, break that down. What are those two things?
okay, so what happens with a generalized anxiety disorder is you have to have had that anxiety for at least 6 months.
Oh,
And so,
time.
because we all get anxious, you get anxious if you're worried about someone in your life. You get anxious if you're trying to make your career go forward and you're trying to figure out how to make it. You're anxious if you have financial problems. You're anxious if you have relationship problems. That is
True.
part of. Okay, but when it becomes an anxiety disorder is when you have like a chronic level of anxiety for 6 months or more. And what that looks like is it can be that restlessness. But all that fatigue, all that restlessness also creates fatigue. And it also creates that irritability, where you're just on edge. It doesn't, and that's what you're talking about with the airplane thing. Is what you're
Yes.
talking
Yes.
about. It's not like anything different happening on those airplanes. It's that people have
No.
this fatigue, this irritability, this restlessness and muscle tension. And also sleep disorders comes with that generalized anxiety disorder. So
Okay.
I think you put your finger on something that maybe people have noticed it, But I think by you connecting it to anxiety, I think you're spot on with that. How do people go through anxiety for 2 years and then just come out and, smiling all day and feeling good?
Mm.
And then, so panic attacks are short-lived, but they're more intense. And people think they're dying sometimes when they have a panic attack because their heart
Wow.
is racing. They feel dizzy. They're afraid they're going to die. They're sweating. They're trembling. Their breath, gets short. And so it's very physical. Typically, it does resolve. And sometimes, typically, they're also unexplainable. They come out and you don't know why they're coming out. So that could also explain some of the hostility and, some of the events that are happening in public places, on the planes. You're saying people, having to turn planes around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, with all of that, but a panic attack will be short-lived, but it becomes a disorder when it continues to recur and you can't manage it.
So now my question is this: when you see or when you are about to have a panic attack, and because you feel it coming, what can you do to block it, or to minimize it, or to because it's a debilitating thing. It makes you, because I had a panic attack before, and it's not a good thing. It makes you feel weak. It makes you feel like you can't do anything. So I need to know: is there any tricks, any tips I can do, any mantras or whatever? May have any breathing exercises that I can do to bring myself to calm myself down, because like you said, you feel like you're scared, you're in fear, but it's crazy. I can look around and see nothing's here hurting me, but I can't process that and get to it. And like, okay, there's nothing wrong with you. There's really, truly, not honestly nothing wrong with you, but you feel this feeling inside of you. What do you do?
Okay, so the most powerful thing, and you also want to do this when you're not having a panic attack, so that you're building this skill and you can use it when you are having a panic attack. But it's called diaphragmatic breathing. And
Diaphragmatic breathing. Okay.
what it means is you breathe in through your nose, and you want to breathe all the way into your belly so your belly rises.
Okay.
And you want to do this slowly. You don't want to, it's not like you're gasping for breath. So again, you breathe in through your nose, all the way down to your belly.
Okay. Okay.
And so I would,
it feels calming. That's so I can see why. Okay.
and I would do that preventatively as well. Don't wait to that moment of panic. Do this, maybe like 1 minute every hour. And you just want to check in and make sure that you're breathing into your belly. And then another thing you might want to notice is that it's kind of relaxing muscle tension. And so there is this thing which is called progressive relaxation, where you
Okay.
tense all of your muscles. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, release. And then maybe you push your elbows back against your chair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, release. And you can go through your legs and even, squish up your face. Bring your shoulders up to your ears. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, release. And so these are just the basics. And honestly, for you and your listening audience, you can go to YouTube and put in progressive relaxation. You can put in, diaphragmatic breathing or just breathing tools, and you will find people to guide you through it. And you'll find there's women and men, and you'll find the perfect person that has the right voice that you like to listen to. There's a lot of people out there doing that. So free on YouTube, there's lots of resources for relaxation training. My personal favorite, I love to use visualization. I love to guide clients through it. And that can look like, asking them, like, what's your favorite memory? And it might be, my favorite memory when I was on the ocean with my, partner, and the sun was shining on my face and the waves were lapping up on my feet. And I just felt the warmth of that sun. And And so but you can do that as a guided imagery. You don't have to go to the ocean. And you can
It'd be
imagine
nice to
it.
go there, but I got you.
Well, hey, we're in the Bay Area. We're not far. I mean,
True,
so we're lucky ones out here.
so
So
true.
yeah, so those are some other very basic tools. I think, I've said this before, even about depression, but time in nature and exercise. And again, we're not talking about winning like medals. We're just talking about walking, getting outside. That those are things that really can boost mood and manage anxiety.
Great. Now, I have seen and heard a lot of people say that when they are going, um, family members, when they have these panic attacks or they're dealing with mental illness, it is very hard for them to connect with them because
Mhm.
if you're not going through it, you don't really know what that other person is going through. So, how can I connect with someone that is
Mm.
having a mental breakdown or going through some trauma that they really don't want to talk about, but I see them hurting?
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Um, well, you know, obviously the best thing would be for them to get some sort of professional help or get to some resources. So it may be the first thing is to look for local resources where they can get some types of supports. But one of the first things that can be helpful is compassionate listening, and
Ah,
so really seek first to understand is maybe a good way to describe it. Like what are they experiencing? Depending on what it is, it could be overwhelming for you as well. And so, but try to have that sense of compassion and really get clarity about what they're saying. Sometimes the first step is just giving them that feeling of being heard. If you go into the first thing you say is, oh, buckle up, you can handle this, cheer up. That may not be helpful. They need to be listened to. They need to be
true,
heard.
true.
Um, and so that can be just empathic listening can be helpful. Even if it feels like you're kind of just repeating back what they're saying, they might just have the sense, that someone's there and they're hearing them. And then after that, some of the tools that we've talked about, obviously, from my perspective, finding resources, that are available is going to be also a high priority. But I think the other thing that you can do is to, like what we were talking about with, and I don't know the specific situation, but let's say there's also a behavior that this person really needs to change. And let's
Okay,
say it's alcohol or drugs or something like that.
that's a
Um,
good one because that's really rampant. Yes.
yeah. So one of the things that you can say, what we call rolling with resistance, so that they're going to have a conversation with you is what are the benefits that you're getting out of using, let's just say alcohol, might be weed, I don't know. What are the benefits you get out of it? And the reason you say that is because they're not, totally stupid people. They're not irrational people. There
Hmm.
are some benefits they're getting from it. And so when you ask that question, they realize that this isn't a kind of a critical denial, ain't just a river in Egypt type approach, that you're listening and you understand that, they are doing it for a reason. And then what do you think are the costs? What do you think are the costs of using the substance? And then they might say, well, um, I lost my job because I was using, and now I have to find another way to make money. Or it could be, I feel sick all the time. Maybe I do go to work, but I'm really just dragging all day. It might be about their family, that they're not taking care of their family. It could be their health. It could be a lot of different things. And so when you talk about, okay, there's some benefits, you're not, you have some reasons for doing what you're doing, but then they start to say, oh, wow, actually the things that are making me depressed are created also by what are the drugs I'm using. And so this
Okay.
is a vicious cycle, because the substances will create a mood disorder. The mood
Yes.
disorder will have people turn to substances to try to treat it. So you want to kind of get in there and kind of give them some support. But again, I really just want to double down. If there's any resources and professionals that you can connect them to, there's lots of resources in the Bay Area. That would be, of course, you probably need to have, a connection with them to, motivate them to want to do those kinds of programs or treatments or resources that are available. But really, the best outcome would be to find some professionals that can provide resources for them and, have the training to really help them get better.
So, as you're saying resources and everything, how can someone reach you?
So people can reach me at my website is www.adddisagift.com, and I have a newsletter there. And if you put your email in, you'll get a 20-minute video, which I call the 6 super skills. And what the 6 super skills are is, one is going to be finding your strengths. And I think that that's the most important, because it's really hard to get by in life if you don't know what you're good at, or don't know what you natural talents are, or things that you've learned or trained yourself in, because that begins to give you the confidence to set goals. And so then you set a goal. Okay. And then after you set the goal, you do what I call chunking, which is you take the next step. Let's say your goal is to, let's see, give me a goal, and I'll come up with a chunk for it.
Let's see. Be top 10 in my podcast.
Okay, so Stone wants to be top 10 in his podcast. So the next step for him will be to do more podcasts. Sometimes just because the more you do, the more practice you get. The more practice you get, the better you get. So you want to just do more. And, you have a lot of reasons to have confidence. And so you've got your confidence and you've got your goal. And then the next step is for you to do more. And then after chunking comes boosting motivation. And you boost your motivation by asking yourself, okay, this is going to take a lot of work to do more podcasts, but the motivation is all the benefits that you're going to get by doing that. You're going to gain those skills. You're going to meet new people. You're going to have fun. That's going to keep you busy, give you a good mindset. And then after that, comes emotional regulation. And emotional regulation can be as simple as, let's say you're having a negative thought. Is this true or is it not true? Because a lot of times, we're going down, a dark hole, and it may not even be true. And so is it true or is it not true? And then the second one can be, is this something I can control or something I can't control? And one of the hardest things for most people is if you are, have family, friends, someone you really care about that has an addiction. The truth is you can't control that addiction. The things that we've talked about, that can be helpful to help people to get to resources and things that are going to be helpful. For those people that are struggling in addiction, that it's really hard to realize you can't control that. And so that's why, when we talk about this, this ability to, be motivated and to regulate your emotions, that helps to know, that I can't invest all my emotional energy in something I can't control. Right.
True.
And so, and then the last one is what I call the science of attention management. And there's so much research about what increases attention and what decreases attention. Some big obvious ones. You need sleep to be able to pay attention the next day.
You ain't lying.
Yeah. You need exercise. You need time in nature increases attention. Things like, in terms of the research, that taking breaks, you need to have break. You need to work. You need to take a break. You need to work. You need to take a break. We need to restore our attention. And so there's lots of things that help to research back that help to restore attention. And those are just a few of them that people can use. So those are the 6 super skills.
Great. Now, and I'm so glad that you went over all the 6 super skills and you explained it and you broke it down really well. Now, what I do know that you are an author as well. I want to say 6 or 7 books, and they are really, really, really good books to get. Where can we get these books from? And if you don't mind, give me a couple of your favorite books that you wrote.
Okay, so you can find my books on Amazon.com. And I think my favorite book is right now is probably The 6 Super Skills for Teens. But it's relevant for anyone. It just had to happen to have that as the target market, where it goes through those 6 super skills, because it's just so easy, and it's not a theory. It's like, here's some skills that are sort of obvious when you hear them, and it gives you a lot of ideas for how to apply them. Brain Hacks is probably my most popular, which is it's just, you go through, instead of super skills, how do you increase your attention? How do you use flexible thinking? We all need flexible thinking in everyday life. You think, oh no, this is a catastrophe. Well, what is the best possible outcome? That's an example of flexible thinking. And again, we're talking about emotional regulation. And so we go really into the executive functions of the, what we're talking about, the same similar ones, the motivation, the focus, and emotional regulation. They're all kind of planning. How do you plan things? And then, the big one is also impulse control.
Okay. So now I'm enjoying this because I'm learning from this as well. Um, that impulse control, is that the same thing as when you go to the store and they got all the candy bars and everything at the front aisle and you're like, oh, I want one of them. Do you really want that or not? Or it's just then you see it and you have an impulse to buy it. Is that the same thing?
Yes, exactly. So it could be,
Okay.
with the impulse could be exactly what you're saying, to get that candy bar. It could be to say something, isn't going to be helpful to someone. If you're in a fight or your emotions are. And so the basic way to think about impulse control would be, pause, press the pause button. And I think in terms of impulse control, it could be plan ahead. Like if you're going to Las Vegas, plan ahead.
Plan ahead. Don't lose all your money.
Yeah. Say, don't just go there and it's a free for all. But a lot of things in life are like that, right? Like even like what you're saying, if you go to the grocery store, if so where you have a goal for yourself, and this is, that the managing those impulses is also about being aware of them, predicting them, and not pretending like it's not going to be hard to go to Las Vegas and avoid a lot of,
pitfalls. Yeah,
pitfall. Let's call them pitfalls. And so, yes, that's an example.
Great. Also, what I was looking at is the fact that right now we have this vast thing as we're using now, the internet. We have social media. We have first it was MySpace, and it went from MySpace to Facebook, from Facebook to Instagram, Instagram to Twitter, from Twitter to live chat, to everything. How is social media affecting the psyche and the mental of people? And what can we do to come through that? Before you answer that, I was listening, talking to my pastor, and he said, you know what? When if I ever stop pastoring, I'm going to go and be a chiropractor, because everybody has a phone and all they're doing is having their head down and their neck like this. And all of you're going to get the neck problem, and I'm going to be there to help you with it. So he said, everyone is like this. What happened to the conversation with people? What happened to that? Everything is online. What happened to face, person to person?
Okay, so you're preaching to the choir, because the company that I'm a co-founder of, Bonding Health, which is an ADHD parenting company, we are launching a course called Screen Fiends: How to Help Your Child Manage Screen Time, because this is such an issue. And so that's, the whole idea of screen fiends. So the research, I'm just going to say this, the research is pretty scary, that for the people that are using 4 and more hours a day on social media, and this is, we're not even talking about video games. Video games could be a part of that, but we're talking about video games, being on your smartphone. But the social media can be really problematic, because of course they're, for children anyway. So children that are using 4 or more hours are more at risk for suicidal ideation and depression. So They may be getting bullied. They may be exposed to people that seem perfect and they feel like they're not perfect, and they get that
Yeah,
anxiety and that depression that they're not good enough. So it is a problem. And by the way, we have to say, when all that time that you're spending on that smartphone, what are the real benefits that you're getting, and what are you missing out on? Are you not getting exercise? Are you not studying for your courses? Are you not hanging
there you
out in the
go.
real world with real people? Those are the very things that help us to stay mentally healthy, is real conversations in the real world,
True.
exercise, having, not only connections, but also, having time to yourself and being in control of your mind. And, whether it's mindfulness or meditation, having some, because what happens is social media is addictive.
It very
And,
much so is. It very much so is.
especially the younger they are.
My question is, why is it so addictive to just sit there and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and look? My whole thing, I remember when I was a kid, this playing on here and looking at this. No, we wanted to get outside. We wanted to go and play. We wanted to
Mhm.
ride our bikes. We wanted to see other people, go to other friends' house, get with them, talk to them. It was a really a communicative of touching, feeling, going around, having fun with each other that you don't see anymore. You don't. You can drive down the block nowadays. You don't see people out playing basketball. You don't see
Mhm.
kids. I don't see girls double dutching and playing jump rope
Mhm.
or hopscotch or playing it or freeze tag or I'm going old school
Mhm.
with a lot of these games and playing like it or whatever you want to call it. You don't see them running around in yards and things like that. And I really believe it needs to come back to that because that's a way to, for one, like you said, get your endorphins going, get your mind running, get your mind going, and it won't be so worried about so many things you can be scared about, but having fun, getting your mind somewhere off of all the worries, off of all the stress and everything. We go around. Sometimes me and my friends go around, and I'm 42 years. I'm sorry, I'm 43 years old, and I watch
Mhm.
cartoons. I still watch
Mhm.
cartoons. I
Yeah,
love
good for you.
cartoons.
Yeah.
I have to because
What
I
makes you
believe
happy
I have
makes
a
you
way to
happy.
keep. There you go. It
Healthy
makes me
pleasures.
happy.
Healthy pleasures protect you from depression and anxiety. Healthy pleasures. I don't care if they're cartoons, shooting baskets, skateboarding. You're exactly right. Those things protect you from depression and anxiety because you're having healthy pleasures.
See, I should be a doctor. See, good work, good work, good work. Healthy pleasures. Give them your give them your website again if you can. Give them your email again. I have.
Okay, my website is www.addisAgift.com. And one that might be easier to remember is the startup that I'm a co-founder of, which is www.bondinghealth.com.
Great. I have had a wonderful time. I've
I have
learned
two
so much.
stones.
I thank you so much, Dr. Webb, for coming. I'm so thankful that you walked into my chiropractor and you
I met
gave
you
me
there.
yes, you gave me the opportunity to pitch you being on my show, and I'm thankful. I've been looking for a therapist just to break down what is depression, what is anxiety, what is all these things that we're feeling, and we don't know what it is. And then you also gave us tips and trades to work through them. I am so
Mhm.
thankful for you. I'm so keep doing. Question: is there another book coming out?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe, maybe.
Maybe,
We are
maybe.
trying to, this whole thing about screen time, you nailed it. That you nailed it. That's the biggest next issue. Things like ADHD, it affects a small proportion of the population, but social media affects everybody.
It does. It does. It's somewhere. It doesn't matter where you. If you don't want to if you don't want to deal with social media, doesn't matter. It's somewhere around you. It's
Hmm.
somewhere around you. It's on a phone. It's on a card. It's somewhere. Some kind of QR code. The internet is somewhere around you. Big Brother
Yep.
is always watching.
Yep.
So
Okay. Thank you so much, Stone. That was really a wonderful
no
interview.
problem. You have a wonderful day, and ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together again for Dr. Webb. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.